So did you see the report? I didn't read it, but I saw a headline that there are multiple record companies bidding for a NSYNC reunion album, and then conversely a tour.
Yeah, I did see that. I was it Chris Kirkpatrick was on some show and was like, yeah, we've had discussions. We're just trying to figure out what's next. I think long story short is Justin's got to finish up this tour that's bombing massively, and then they can put pen to paper and get this locked up.
Yeah, I hope it continues so the prices come way down by the time he comes in October and I can go.
Yeah, is it? I feel like he's playing 2 shows in Michigan this year.
Maybe Grand
Maybe not.
Rapids.
Maybe, yeah, but it's not going well for him. That album bombed, and the tour isn't off to a great start, I guess. So
that's unfortunate. I like the album.
Yeah, I mean, we never really
we
never talked about.
We were going to review it, but then we didn't end up recording that week, and other stuff ended up coming. By the time we got back to it, it was like, what's the point now? But I really like that album.
It was solid. It was you and I talked off air. It was better. It was obviously better than Man in the Woods.
Yeah.
But it's still not even close to the first 3. Like,
sure,
it was more of a throwback to the Timberlake that I think you and I both like.
Yes.
But something's missing with it, and I think his time as a top tier solo artist is over.
Probably.
He's always going to have his diehards, but I don't think he's going to recapture that hold he had over pop music.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm sure the Britney stuff doesn't help and all that kind of stuff. So,
I mean, yeah, I think the Britney Spears stuff really hammered it in, but I think when people in general looked back at him, he's a lot more problematic than maybe people wanted to admit. And now it's kind of like, well, we can't really ignore all the different things he's done that not the greatest.
# problematic faves.
Yeah. Luckily for him, there's 4 guys who've been out of the limelight for a long time that are like, we'll do whatever you want. So
Right. So, speaking of problematic faves, we're back.
Wow, that might be the best segue you've ever had on this program.
Yes, we are. Today will truly be Kris and Matt's Whatever Pod. We have a little bit of wrestling, but we're going to talk about whatever else comes to our mind until we decide that it's time to go. So, leave a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to the channel before we get started. And how are you? How are things over at the Durr household?
Things are okay.
Yeah,
it's been a rough week.
Yes.
We had to yesterday. We had to put down our cat, Lily, who we've had for 17 years. You lived with her for some
time. Yeah.
Yeah, we had her for 17 years, and she was at least a year old when we got her, probably closer to 2. So she'd been around for a while.
Yeah.
But kind of a rough week. We woke up yesterday, and she was fine. Over the weekend, she was acting like she always did. And then 2 days, she just,
yeah,
she's an old lady.
Yep. Yeah, besides not too much younger than that. So.
Right.
Yeah. So that day is going to come sooner or later, unfortunately. And Kingston's like starting to get attached to her. So it's like, oh, man, that's going to be rough.
Yeah.
But not quite as devastating as losing a family pet, but I lost a refrigerator this week.
Depending on how much you like to eat, that might be worse.
It was weird. We what day was it? It was Sunday, I think. Or no, it was Monday. I take a lunch, one of those like thermos like lunch bags with like water and stuff. And so I went to grab my ice packs out of the freezer on Monday morning. And I'm like, these don't seem quite as frozen as I'm used to. But, I got home late Sunday was a long ass day. So I got home pretty late, and I'm like, oh, maybe, but how late I got home, and now I'm up early. It's maybe whatever. Didn't think too much of it until a couple hours later. My wife texted me. She's like, yeah, the freezer's not working. I'm like, awesome. Okay. And then it was like, the quick, you got to make the quick snap decision. Do we try and call someone out, or do we just say F it and buy a new one? And it's like, well, let's just buy a new one.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And then they had delivered it the next day. Got it from Lowe's, and they delivered it next day. And so she looked at, because she looked up the serial number or whatever on the old fridge, and it was like 20 years old. So it was about time. But similar thing where like it didn't really show many signs up until it was,
and then one day.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm getting, so that fridge, the old fridge, the freezer was on the bottom and the refrigerator was on top. So now I gotta retrain myself.
Once we switched over to the bottom freezer, I don't think I could ever go back.
Yeah. It's definitely an adjustment, but we're handling it. So, well, we were, I texted you a couple hours ago because I'm like, one, I'm not really in, feeling too much like previewing either of these shows right now myself. I will be back on Late Night Grin tomorrow night, Friday night, to preview King and Queen of the Ring. So,
yeah, you kicked me to the curb. Said we're not doing the preview because I got to go do it with the big boys.
You, Mister,
got called up to the majors
last week when I brought it up that's what we'd be doing this week. You're like, I'm not showing up. I'm not talking.
You don't have any proof of that.
It's on video, sir. So yeah, I'll be on there to talk about that show, and then obviously you're not watching AEW right now. I haven't watched AEW in like probably 3 weeks, just because I've been really into the playoffs, both basketball and hockey, lately, and so like every Wednesday it seems like there's a game on, and like last night was Rangers Panthers, and I'm like I want to watch this.
Yeah, I think that says everything about where AEW stands as a company right now.
Right. So, but then you said, well, we could talk about AEW being 5 years old. I'm like, yeah, we could talk about that. So, Double or Nothing is this weekend, and it will mark the 5th year anniversary of the first Double or Nothing, which was the first show under the AEW banner, and it's crazy that it's been 5 years already.
Yeah, it really feels like it's flown by, and I don't know if it's an age thing or if the pandemic played into it or what.
All the above, probably.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that Moxley walked out at the end of that show 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it just feels like that was not that long ago.
No.
But it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild to think where they were at then, and to look, what did we think that company could be then? And I'd be interested if our first edition of this podcast, of some of those old episodes, that those were around the time AEW started. Like,
yeah,
I wonder if, maybe we should have thought this out ahead of time. This is why we are terrible at this. We never do any like pre-planning. We just kind of wing it. We could have gone back and like, oh, this is what we were saying, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I know what I was saying. I was trying to saying I was open-minded, but all the while trying to discredit every move they made. Because I was still full on fed pilled at the time.
Yeah.
So
And I was in my like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever.
Right.
And we were both wrong.
Sure. Um, yeah, they've had some ups and downs, and right now it seems like a down, or it doesn't seem like it is. And it's interesting. Like I'm still, I think out of the two of us, I'm probably the most optimistic that they could. I don't think they'll ever get back to where they were in like towards the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. But they should be able to at least get back to where they were, like, I don't know, like at the beginning or something. I don't know. I think getting MJF back soon, hopefully, whenever Kenny whenever Kenny is healthy enough to come back, I think that'll be a big help. But
I think MJF coming back will help. I don't think, and look, it's an easy criticism of him. The guy's fantastic in the ring. Kenny Omega's not a draw. He's never been the guy that people tuned in to see in large numbers. So I kind of disagree with that. Uh, I think overall, if you look at the 5 years, I think AEW has been a tremendous benefit to the wrestling business.
Absolutely.
Its existence is a good thing in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very frustrating that it could be so much better.
Yes.
And for multiple different reasons, they just, every time they've built the momentum, they find a way to hurt themselves. And I know he's not the most likable guy, and he thinks he's a lot more important than he really was. But Eric Bischoff always talks about, like, once you get that momentum going, it's really hard to pick it back up again when you've stalled out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they've stalled out a couple times to a point where it's going to take something special to get them back to that late 2021 or even to the start. And I don't see anything there or anyone there right now that gives me that sense of like it's going to happen soon. Not saying it can't happen. I'm so conflicted about that company because, like, it is a great thing to have, and it's awesome that there is a place where people who aren't being utilized by WWE can still go and make a great living and be on national TV and advance the business as a whole forward. The problem is they seem to have abandoned everything that made them different in the beginning, and it just comes off like WWE light or like a rehash of wanting to be a combination of ECW and TNA.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating when you look back at those early shows where, like, they were bringing in people from different companies all over the world and showcasing them and putting them up against, like, their top guys and being like, we're the company that works with the rest of the world. They're not doing that anymore. They just go and sign guys. Or they bring them in for like a week or two and then they're gone.
Right, yeah. I mean, they do work with New Japan, obviously, and CMLL.
And that's really about it. Like, I don't know. It just, remember, when MJF was putting Jericho through the trials of or whatever and like they brought in Nick Gage.
Right.
And that was, Nick Gage is a guy that's never going to be a megastar in mainstream wrestling. He's just not it's not what he does. But it was really interesting to get him in the ring and see him with a legend like Jericho. And I don't know. I feel like they stopped doing a lot of the things that made them stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought it up for this over-reliance on not just ex-WWE guys, but like old WWE guys is just, you can get away with one, but when your card is littered with it, it's really hard to be positive about the brand when there's so many guys that just they never ended up doing anything with it. Looked like they had they had that it factor we talk about.
Yeah, I think I think a big reason why I'm more checked out than I am, than I have been in the past year or so, to the point where not only am I not gonna watch the pay-per-view, like I haven't been watching the TV, as I said, is I don't think Christian is should be Swerve's first challenger as AEW champion. Like that was just like, man, again, like I'm sure the match will be fine and everything. And Christian's been great the last however long since he turned heel, and the father stuff has been really, really good and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't. I think that's the thing that's so frustrating, is that they have a lot of guys that I like there, but I don't care about any of them right now.
Two things. That goes to my point of not doing things the way they did when they started. Christian just lost his title.
Right.
He was the loser in the blood feud with Copeland.
Yes.
How did he get the title? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I believe the storyline is.
I don't care what the storyline is. Like, well, I don't care how they try to write it into the show. When AEW started, you had to, like, they clearly built challengers. And I know the ranking system was flawed, but at least it was somewhat logical. The guy just lost the blood feud. He shouldn't be challenging for the world title. I don't care. He should have to move back up the ranks.
Right.
But to your point about they have all these guys that you like, but you don't care about. I think it was Tommy Dreamer said something to the on Busted Open, basically saying, if you watch their weekly shows, there is nothing that links Dynamite to Rampage to Collision back to Dynamite. The only thing you know when you tune in is, I'm going to see some good wrestling. I'll see a good wrestling match. And that's something you and I have talked about. If you just want to see a great match, AEW is perfect. But if you're looking for any sort of cohesive, like, can't wait to tune in Saturday night, you can kind of forget about it. Because sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. And a lot of the time when they do it, it's not very well done. And it's disappointing.
Yeah. I can't speak to that, the cohesion thing. From what I gather, there have been some storylines that have been progressing between the shows. But again, because I haven't been watching, so I don't want to talk out of turn about that as far as that goes right now. But yeah, it's just like I said. Yeah, like I said, there's no one and nothing right now that's making me choose to be like, you know what, I'm not gonna watch Luca versus Anthony Edwards. You know,
yeah,
I'm gonna watch Dynamite instead.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch Ospreay versus Kyle O'Reilly instead.
yeah, right. And
I think. Oh, go ahead. I don't want to.
No. I was pretty much done. It's just, I was just basically going to just rehash what I already said. So go ahead.
I think the company lost the cool factor at some point along the way. It lost the cool factor, and it probably started when Cody left and he showed up on WWE, and everyone in all the WWE fans were like, "Oh my God, Cody's here! This is incredible." And it all started, I wonder how much that played into it. And then certainly all the stuff with Punk didn't help. But they could have survived that if they would have had a game plan. And they just, I don't know, they haven't.
Look, it probably is just a big, giant coincidence. But it's awfully just funny to sit and look at the timeline of things, and like how soon after Cody left, how things started to turn.
4 months. He left in January, and by May things were a disaster.
Yeah.
And backstage, on screen, But I also I didn't want to sit here and shit on AEW.
No.
So I did want to talk about
we're
a
doing
lot of the good things.
Yeah, we're setting all this up so that we can talk about. I don't know. I kind of was trying to come up with what my five, seeing it's the 5th anniversary, what my 5 favorite moments so far have been. So I didn't know if or what you had.
It was more just kind of touching on like a guy like Eddie Kingston.
Yes.
Like, just he and again, it goes back to what AEW was at the beginning. Eddie Kingston's doing a show in someone's backyard or wherever that was. Cuts a promo on Cody because he's like, I got nothing else. I might as well shoot my shot. And they were like, that's brilliant. Bring him in. And then they were like, hey, this guy, he can talk. He had a great match with Cody. Let's bring him back some more. And he's become, I would say, one of the most beloved people in that entire company.
Absolutely.
Like, AEW fans love that guy. I like that. Like, and it's awesome because he was ready to let it go. He was getting ready to go home and work. I think he said he was going to go call his uncle and go work, in New York somewhere. Like, that's incredible. A kid like Darby Allin, who, I would argue is a wrestling star now. He'll never go to WWE. He would never work in WWE.
No.
But he's when his music hits, man, people love that guy. And he was a scrawny nobody from Seattle, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
They made him into a star, and I think they've treated him, of the 4 pillars. Him and MJF are the 2 that have been treated, have done the most and have been treated the best by the company.
Yes. Yep. For me, like one of the first things I think of is the ending to All Out 2021, which you were there.
Yeah.
That was you had already had Punk's first match that night, and Ruby had debuted in the Battle Royal, which was at the time was a decent sized deal. And then to end the show with not only Adam Cole but then Bryan Danielson, like within minutes of each other, like that was like, oh my god, like.
Well, the ending gets remembered, but like the Bucks and the Lucha Bros had probably the greatest tag team steel cage match of all time.
Sure, yeah.
That was insane. Moxley wrestled Suzuki.
Yes.
Miro and Eddie had a banger of an open.
Yep.
Even Jericho and MJF's match was, you knew Jericho was going to win, but like the card top to bottom was stacked, and then they just closed it out with the greatest debut of the modern 2 greatest debuts of the modern era. Like,
right.
2 of, I should say. There's been some really good ones in the last few years. I can't say.
Right. Yeah.
For me, when I think AEW to me was special that entire summer.
Mm-hmm.
That summer of 21 just felt like you couldn't miss an episode when they were building that tension between Hangman and the Elite, and you had the Dark Order involved. It was so well done, and the rumors of like Punk's kind of talking about coming back.
Yeah, I remember texting you when I first got the Fightful Select report about Punk. I'm like, oh my god, Matt. And then like a month later, it was like, oh, by the way, Bryan Danielson's coming in too.
Yeah. And it was like Adam Cole didn't re-sign with WWE. Right. He's open to anything.
Yeah.
But just that era had an aura around it. That was the summer where Eddie and Moxley were teaming together.
Mm-hmm. Basically from the time fans came back.
Yeah.
Until the basically from Double or Nothing 2021 to Double or Nothing 2022, basically. Because then Punk got hurt. And like, it was still fine while Punk was hurt, but then Punk came back, and then that's when,
Yeah, it's all Punk's fault.
No, I'm just saying that's when it happened, is when he came back. Yeah, you mentioned the Dark Order and Kenny Hangman stuff. That was one of the other ones I had thought of, is that 10-man tag they had on Dynamite with the Elite all in their Space Jam.
Yeah.
And then that entrance with the Dark Order and Hangman with the purple with the purple bandanas and stuff like that. That was really good stuff. And I remember, like, I couldn't believe Hangman, like, they had Hangman lose. Like, I was like, what are they doing? And then you can't, it's like, well, he's, not going to be available for All Out, so it's going to be delayed a little bit. But I was like, oh man, what are they doing? But it all ended up okay, I guess. But yeah, that match on Dynamite, that was pretty special. We talked about relying on the old guys, but I mean, goddamn, you can't use an old guy any better than how they use Sting.
Right.
Like,
right.
That was so well done. And he was, I remember, so they did the cinematic whatever first at Revolution.
Yeah, with Starks and Hobbs.
Yes. And I was like, oh, okay, that was nice. And then who did they wrestle at was it them again at Double or Nothing that year, that at 2021?
I don't remember.
Anyways, regardless, and like, he's diving off the
yep.
ramp and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's got a messed up spine.
He's 80 years old. What is he doing?
Right. So yeah, that was all the way to the end.
And like, using him to elevate Darby. Like, when he came out, remember, everyone thought he was going to go with Cody, because Cody was Mr. WCW and Legacy and all that stuff.
Yeah, and Sting was his favorite wrestler and all that kind of stuff.
Right, and then they used him to elevate Darby and tied into, like, I see a lot of myself in Darby and all that. Like, could they? You said it. They could not have used him better. It's that no notes. Like, you did it. You did it perfectly.
Right. It was the Men of the Year.
Yeah. Yep. Paige and Scorpio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, that pay-per-view. That was a pretty good pay-per-view.
The first Double or Nothing?
No, the 2021, the third. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant the first one after
after the pandemic. Yeah, because because it opened with Hangman and Brian Cage, and I remember that match being awesome. Then it was the
Hangman doing that moonsault to the outside with the sunset was like one of those shots of, like, man.
Bucks versus Mox and Eddie, that was a great match. Then the unfortunateness of Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo.
At least Cody solved racism.
Yeah, that's right. Miro and Lance Archer, I remember being a Hoss fest. That was the pay-per-view where Britt finally won the title from Shida.
Yeah.
Sting and Darby, like I said. Then that was like the rare 3-way for the title with Kenny, Orange, and Pac, and then it ended with the Stadium Stampede with the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle,
which was okay.
The first Stadium Stampede in 2020, that was
and that leads me into one of the things. Like, I will forever be grateful to AEW. That first year of the pandemic, it obviously goes without saying. hard on everybody. AEW gave me something to look forward to every single week. And even when it wasn't great, it was like, man, at least I got something that feels normal and familiar. And it's bringing me 2 hours of happiness as it happens and a couple hours, maybe even more throughout the week talking about it as it's going on. Like, I know the Thunderdome existed, but from everything I've heard, it unless you're just a diehard WWE fan, like it was a tough watch a lot of the time.
Most of the time it was. Most of the time it was really bad. Yeah, I mean, other than really the only good thing that came out of the Thunderdome is the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns.
Yeah, which is a pretty damn good thing to come out of the.
Sure. You know, they had their moments when they were doing the shows in the PC, with some stuff. I think I brought it up last week, or maybe the week before, the AJ Bryan match for the Intercontinental title that went like 3 or 4 commercial breaks or something ridiculous like that. But yeah, for the most part, WWE pandemic wrestling was very forgettable. But there's
and I feel like AEW.
Yeah, there's a lot of AEW stuff that I'll remember for quite a while of stuff that was being done that was cool.
The first Bucks FTR match.
Right, the first that. I mean, you mentioned Eddie. You know, his debut and match against Cody was during the pandemic. That's how Ricky Starks got signed as well. It's the same scenario as he came in to wrestle Cody and got signed off of that.
Yeah, now he's going to get signed in WWE off of Cody again. Yeah. Good for Ricky Starks.
Good for him. Yeah, the Cody Brody Lee feud, Brody Lee's entire run was during the pandemic, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. Let's be real, though. The best part of the Brody Lee run in any of it was being the Elite and the stuff with the Dark Order.
Oh, sure.
Like, that was fantastic. I remember, no, you know what? The Brody Lee feud was the one that people like. It's the Malachi Black one that people were like, I am so done with Cody.
Yes. Well, because it was the Go feud. It was the Go feud into the Malachi feud, and then that turned into a QT like there was a QT Marshall feud in there as well. Like it got, you know, before there was a Jericho Vortex, there was the Codyverse. Like
to quote a very famous Rhodes member, it was hard times.
It was very hard times. It was very hard times. I was to the point where I was like, do I like this guy still?
Damn it. 6 more months. You know, and the other thing I don't have any way of proving this, right? And you could argue because the last big WWE show before the pandemic was that Royal Rumble where Edge came back.
Yeah.
McIntyre wins. The crowd is going crazy. But I feel like AEW's existence and some of those crowds in AEW have fueled what we've seen in WWE of like, this is how an audience reacts when you want the company to know like you love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And AEW's fan base early on and coming out of the pandemic was white hot. Those shows were great.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously cooled off since then for several reasons. But I can't help but think that influenced why you're seeing more and more men of our age at these WWE shows going nuts.
Yeah.
When prior to AEW, that wasn't really the case. We went to indie shows, you know, and AEW brought a lot of people out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, our first AEW show, when they finally made it to Detroit, like I still don't understand how Detroit wasn't one of the first. I know they only were up and running. TV was only up and running for like 4 months before the pandemic started, but I don't know how Detroit wasn't.
Dude, the company's been around for 5 years. They've been here twice.
Sure.
The first time the show you're talking about, we did 11,000 people. The last time they did like 9,000. But now they got to go to Peoria every 6 weeks.
Right. Got to do a whole residency in Arlington.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second Blood and Guts match, the first one in front of people. There was some other good stuff on that show too. Oh, that was when it was Caster and the Ass Boys versus Danhausen and two of his partners. And I remember before the show when that match was announced, everyone's like, "Oh my god, the Machine Guns are going to be here.
Yeah.
The Machine Guns are going to be here." Well, then it just ended up being FTR, which was awesome anyway. And then, but that's where the Ass Boys turned on the Acclaimed.
Yep.
So that, and then, Blood and Guts, and that was the beginning of the Christian heel turn too. The very beginning stages when Luchasaurus had first joined him.
See, I don't remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they can get back to something. I don't know, like I said, I don't know how high the highs can be, but I think they can get to a point where now we're like, at least for me, like, and at the end of the day, at the end of the day, all that matters is the numbers matter from a business perspective, but from a fan perspective, like what you like. I'm not. It just so happens that right now, business isn't good, and I'm not really liking what I'm seeing either. But there's a lot of people that I know that do like it. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's clearly cultivated a certain audience.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 1 million people that love it, and that's nothing to sneeze at. That's, it like I said earlier, it's an important part of the business. It gives people places to go. I think I think they need to stop worrying about what's going on at WWE. Quit taking your shots. Quit. You're not going to catch them. Just leave them. Let them be their own thing, and you be your own thing. And find 10 to 12 guys and 6 to 8 women, and really just kind of hone in on getting them to a level where they can make the rest of the card important, where you can pull a guy up and have them feud with an Osprey and make them into something for 6-8 weeks,
mm-hmm.
where people want to see it because it's someone new and they want to see Osprey.
Right. Yep.
So hopefully they can figure it out.
Yeah. Any other AEW thoughts before we move on?
No.
Do you have any thoughts about SummerSlam next year being 2 nights?
I saw a lot of people hating on it, and I don't think it's a bad idea. Like, everywhere they go right now, they're packing huge houses for these stadium shows.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of WrestleMania, and even at WrestleMania, they run into the problem of, like, we don't have enough time to get everybody on the show. You split it up, at least you can do 12 storylines
mm-hmm.
heading into your major show. It's probably going to make your weekly TV better because you're going to have stuff rotating. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't like it for the I don't like it for the fans, because it means you got to buy 2 sets of tickets, and they're already jacking their prices up so much where, like, you can't afford to take your family to anything like that. Well, you can, but most people aren't going to plan their family vacation around, hey, we're going to Minnesota for SummerSlam.
Right.
I like that it kind of makes up for the, hey, Minnesota's getting WrestleMania.
That was my very first thought was because and it was so weird. Like I didn't have a lot of time to be online today, but the couple times I did get on during the day, like I saw a couple comments about something about every PLE, soon being 2 nights or something, people getting their jokes off,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what are they talking about? So it wasn't until I got home and could actually like scroll and like figure out what people were talking about. I'm like, oh, well, that's because I'd said this about a month or maybe more ago that I thought Royal Rumble definitely was going to become a 2-night event.
It should be a 2-night event.
It should be. And so I was like, SummerSlam, really? But then I saw it was Minneapolis. I'm like, oh, well, this is a make good. This is, until I see that this is, if it works, then yes, going forward, SummerSlam will be 2 nights as well as WrestleMania. But I got to imagine that at this juncture, this is just, hey, we're sorry we took WrestleMania from you and gave it to Vegas. We'll give you SummerSlam, which is our number 2 event, and we'll make that 2 nights as well, so you get just as much, out of it as you would have for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also think like I don't see why they wouldn't do this for Royal Rumble. Like it makes way too much sense.
It does. It really does. You separate those Rumble matches, and I think it'll make a world of difference.
I completely agree. And again, the 2-night thing, it brings in a lot of money for the places where they do this. It's curious to me that they were supposed to go to Minnesota for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Went to Vegas and then did not say, hey, you're going to get the 2026 WrestleMania. They're like, no, you get the 2026 SummerSlam. So who's getting WrestleMania in 2026? Because that clearly means Minnesota's not bidding on it. Minneapolis, is not bidding on. So, like, where are they going to go after it? It's got to come back. It's probably going to come back to East Coast or Florida.
It's going to be Florida, or it's going to be someplace out west.
You think so?
Yeah, I really think they're done with. Even though like Minnesota would have been just fine because it's in a dome. Like,
right.
Detroit would be just fine because it's in a dome. We had, and it's a crapshoot. I get it, but like WrestleMania 23 was like on April 1st, and I remember the weather being phenomenal that day.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Hell, they did the one down in Tampa, and it rained on them. Like.
Right. So.
Maybe stop doing the outdoor stadiums. Maybe that's. But I was thinking like Lucas Indoor could be a really good one because they can't do Chicago because obviously they don't have it. But Indianapolis is it's kind of like a great central point for the Midwest in general. You can pull Detroit, Chicago, all the crap cities in Ohio, and then you can pull people from like Tennessee, Kentucky,
right,
and obviously it's a worldwide event, but Indy is equipped.
McAfee doesn't have to travel.
Right, well, Indy is equipped to handle all of the people because the NFL draft is there every year. The Big Ten championship is there every year. Like they know how to host big time events for hundreds of thousands of people coming to town. I don't know. Could be within driving distance.
They're doing some sort of like swimming event there. Like they were building pools in there. I saw a picture.
Is Michael Phelps going to be there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. He's the only swimmer I can remember. I can't even remember the
Ryan
Ryan
Lochte.
whatever. Yeah, that's the guy.
So, but yeah, I don't have a big problem with it. So, all right.
And look, it's one of those things too. Like when they announce this ahead of time, it gives all the indie feds a chance to be like, hey, we might as well get ready to go to Minnesota in 2026 because there's a guaranteed captured audience.
Is it 2026 or 2025?
I thought it was the 2026 SummerSlam. I think they announced it 2 years out.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of
That's weird.
It's kind of it's odd to me that they would announce it that far out. Yeah, it's 2026.
Huh. All right.
Straight from the WWE website. August 1st and 2nd, 2026.
Okay then. That is wow. So I wonder where 2025 is going to be.
I'm telling you, in about after they finish with this year's SummerSlam and they announce where the Rumble is, I would not be surprised if Hunter's like, we're doing 2 nights.
Yeah. I mean, those 3, like, yeah. Obviously, I don't want to get to a point where it's every month, but for those 3 events, I don't see an issue with it. They're
I don't either.
They're the 3 events that you run stadiums for anyway. So, and if you can get
at least in the U.S.
In the U.S., yeah, and if you can get 2 stadium-sized gates as opposed to 1 for all 3 of these, like, why wouldn't you? And like you said, it also, the cities that are, they're nothing is a Super Bowl, nothing's the NFL, but like cities are like really going after bringing their shit to their towns.
It may not be the Super Bowl, but I don't know that there's another event out there like it that brings that sort of audience or attendance year after year after year. Like it's a thing where like the minute tickets go on sale, they don't worry about are they going to sell WrestleMania tickets. No. They know they're gonna get before a match is ever done. That's why it cracks me up when they're like, "Oh yeah, Cody and Roman drew blah 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 blah." No, they didn't. That those tickets were sold before they even had a match on the card. Like. Sure. It just doesn't work like that anymore.
Well, yeah. It works how they say it works.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the history of WWE and Kiss.
Oh, we'll get to the latter at the end. Let's talk some Yankees though, because we haven't done that.
Let's do it.
They're playing pretty good ball right now,
huh? I cannot believe they're at this point in the season and they're first place. I think they're still first place. I know Baltimore. Well, no, Baltimore just got swept for the first time in like a year and a half or something, or maybe 2 years.
Yeah, by like the Cardinals, right?
Right, like one of the worst teams in baseball. Look, man, the pitching staff has shown up way more than I could have imagined. When Garrett went down, it was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, this is gonna be a long year.
Right. But Luis Gil hit. I think he's got the lowest batting average against in baseball. Nasty Nestor has just been solid. Sometimes he gets knocked around, but most times he goes out there and gives you 5 solid innings.
Mm-hmm.
And Garrett's getting ready.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And look, they're chasing something they haven't gotten a while. I wouldn't be surprised if come the trade deadline they start looking, and this could be the year they actually make an impact move.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be nice. Nice to see the old Yankees return.
Yeah. Like we're gonna go get the best player on the market.
Soto's been great. Judge took a little while to get going, but he seems to be turning it on. Did you see the bomb Stanton hit today?
Yeah, the center.
Yeah.
Right. He hit it over Monument Park. I think that I hate to put it out there because it could go away in a minute. I think he's been the key to the offense this season. Him being healthy and being able to prove, hey, look, he's not the MVP, Giancarlo, but you miss out over the plate, he's still going to hit it 440 feet. Like, this dude is still a weapon. It gives them 3 elite hitters in the lineup, and that's hard to top.
There is a sound when he gets a hold of one that like
Yep.
there's nothing like it.
It's they talk about the crack of the bat. It's like the pop of the twine inside of the ball.
Yeah.
It's just like the thing explodes.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully they keep it going, and yeah, they roll into the playoffs and get a deep run, get another World Series. It's been 15 years.
Right. And look, I mean, Volpe is already having a better season this year than he had last season. It's Yankees prospects get a lot of hype because of who the Yankees are.
Right.
And when they don't live up to those expectations right away.
Well, and because of how the team is usually constructed, if there's a prospect that's going to crack the lineup, he must be something special.
Right. And him and Cabrera both kind of came in with a lot of hype. And when it didn't pan out right away, I think that's what Austin Wells is going through right now, where they're like, oh, this guy's the catcher of the future, blah, blah, blah. He's struggling. And it's like, well, I thought he was supposed to be king shit, and just give it a little time. Maybe catcher's a position they have to go address at the deadline.
Right.
But Trevino is great with the pitching staff. So, I'm not looking to get him out of here either.
Right. Is LeMahieu back yet?
I don't know for sure, but he's also someone I'm not like, whatever they get from him, I'm going to be okay with.
Well,
but
just because I was thinking, because he seems to be hurt a lot as well. Like,
yeah.
So if you can upgrade there, maybe that probably wouldn't be a bad thing.
Glaber has struggled again this year offensively. It might be time to just, he's not going to be the all-star we thought he was going to be. And if he wants too much money, we got to let him go. But also he's a guy that's proven, he can get hot and go on a tear over 30 games where he looks like a top 3 second baseman.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if Jason Dominguez, because he's supposed to be back, playing minor league ball soon. I'm curious to see if he gets a September call up, just to see kind of like that Shane Spencer.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I think even Brett Gardner was one of those where it's like, we're going to call him up right before September, so if we need him in the playoffs, he's there. Yeah. Especially, if Verdugo doesn't overly impress. Obviously, you can't put Stanton in the outfield. You need a defensive replacement. Dominguez is pretty solid out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Good stuff. I still haven't caught a full game. Like I think I saw pieces of when they played the Tigers earlier this year. Obviously,
he must have been out of town or something.
Have they only played the Tigers once?
No, I was making a joke about how you can't watch Tigers games in Metro Detroit right now.
I thought I thought that was before that happened, but yeah.
Maybe
I regardless.
No idea.
Whenever they're MLB Network, like every time one of their games is on MLB Network, there's some reason or another I can't I can't watch it at that time. So
Yeah.
hopefully as the summer goes, I'll be able to catch some more games. But
Trying to look up to see if LeMahieu was actually. He is not back yet.
okay, I didn't think so, but
I'm really Juan Soto is one of my favorite players in baseball. So like us getting him was, couldn't I don't buy the comments this week from Brian Cashman about how like they don't know if they've got the cash to go over the threshold. Like, don't bullshit me.
right.
We're the goddamn New York Yankees. Okay?
Yeah.
Money is not an option. George would have fired his ass if he heard that.
Right.
The Yankees don't have enough money
right.
to keep the best young hitter in baseball. Shut up. Shut up. The deal should have been done 6 months ago. When they traded for him, it should have been done. They should have went to Juan's house and said, we're going to give you $500 million to be the number 3 hitter in our lineup for the next 20 years.
Who do you think they are, the Tigers?
I saw a stat today. The Lions spent more money in the offseason re-signing Sewell, Goff, and St. Brown than the Tigers have during the entire span of Chris Ilitch owning the team on free agents and renewing contracts. Awesome.
Yeah.
I say all that to say if Juan walks away, that's gonna suck.
Yeah, it's gonna suck.
I know he wants to play there. He's already said he loves being in Yankee Stadium. They gotta get into the playoffs and give him that feeling of being in Yankee Stadium in October.
Right.
And hope that just like intoxicates him to the point where he's like, yeah, I'm staying.
Yeah. Yep. So, alrighty. All right. Real quick before we go, I just gotta. You can like take your earbud out if you want. You don't need to hear this. I gotta talk a little bit about Kiss for a minute, because it's the anniversary of one of my favorite albums today. 45 years ago, Dynasty was released, which is the album that features I Was Made for Lovin' You, which is a song that Matt actually likes. I said it's the album that has I Was Made for Lovin' You on it, which is a song that Matt actually likes.
Oh, I literally took my earbud out.
I know. It's one that
is Heaven's on Fire on that album?
No, it is not.
That came on the radio today, and I cranked it up.
No, that's a non-makeup song.
Oh,
yeah,
that explains.
Yeah. This is the album after they did the solo albums in '78. And this is, a lot of the hardcore fans. I think most everyone has come around on it now, but a lot of the hardcore fans at the time really hated this. This is where they started getting a little too kiddie for some of the hardcore fans. Like, kids started showing up at the shows and stuff like that, and they had the colorful costumes, which I love, but whatever. But there's some really great songs on it. Magic Touch is one of my all-time favorite. It's my all-time favorite Kiss deep cut. Like, it's just a banger of a song. I think this is the only album where someone other than Paul has more songs than Gene does. Ace sings 3 songs on the album. Gene only has 2. So that makes it kind of weird.
Is it the 4 originals on this still?
Yes. This is the 4 originals.
Okay.
Peter barely plays on it, though. So the funny thing is like I said, this is the album after the solo albums. And so they do the solo albums. Ace sells the best, then Gene, then Paul, then Peter's like dead last. So they're getting ready to do this album, and he like it's one of the time 950 out of the 1,000 that he threatened to quit. He's like, I'm not, I quit unless we use the producer I used on my solo album. And they're like, fine, we'll use your producer. Well, the irony is they get in.
They sound like shit anyway. It doesn't matter who produces it.
The irony is they get in there and the producer's like, yeah, he can't hack it. We got to bring someone else in to record these drums. But this is the last tour of the original four. Peter's face
Ever?
is on. No, until the reunion in '96,
okay,
which kicked off at Tiger Stadium, where I was at. This is the first tour my dad saw them in concert, actually, down at the Toledo Sports Arena.
Nice.
And I believe that was the last show of the tour, so I believe it was the last show of the original four until '96.
And then he saw the first one.
Yeah.
Aww.
But there's one, I can't remember with a city, but there's a video online. I want to say it's Largo, Maryland, where Peter sings Beth, and he's so skunked out of his mind that he forgets the words and then just starts laughing.
I like it.
It's pretty entertaining. But yeah, no, I love this out. It's definitely a top 5. No, it's not top. It's top 3. It's one of my top 3 studio albums.
Top 5 all time.
Yeah. No, it's top 3, and depending on the day, it's 1. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I love this album.
Maybe I'll check it out. Maybe not. I don't know.
Magic Touch. I'm telling you, Magic Touch. That's the song.
Okay. That you were right. The Dynasty tour finished up December 16th, 1979 in Toledo, Ohio.
Yes.
I
believe there was like a blizzard or something too that they had to drive through.
Well, 2 nights earlier they were in Huntsville, Alabama.
Ah.
So
that's quite the.
Yeah, they were on that WWE schedule here. It looks like, because they, from November to the end of the tour, they were in like Denver, Anaheim, Phoenix, Vancouver, Seattle, San Diego, Shreveport. Like, they were all over the place.
Who routed this shit?
Probably a very drunk Ace Frehley.
They played the Silverdome on that tour.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was the full. I don't think they played the full. I think they halved it or whatever. But yeah, they played the Silverdome.
Sure. Huh.
So
had to come back to the place that made them big, right?
No, yeah, always got.
Yeah, Cheap Trick opened that show.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's that. That's my my Kiss soapbox for the night. So, I have the.
Do you have a literal Kiss soapbox? Because
no. I was gonna say I have all the figures of the Dynasty costumes. They're all over the place though, because Kingston comes in here and just wrecks shop and then leaves. But
yeah, right, raise hell, leave.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
He's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He is. Leaves his stuff all over in here, and then yeah. So the whole house is like that, to be honest. But
well, it doesn't get any better when they're teenagers. I can tell you that. So
that's fine.
Get used to it.
All right. Already am. So.
Real quick.
Yeah.
There was some Lion stuff. Nothing huge.
Right.
But they had practice today.
Oh yeah, OTAs is.
OTAs.
Started. Yes.
Yep. And did you see what Dan Campbell said about J-Mo?
No.
Said he was by far the most improved player in the offseason. He said he's a man on a mission, and he's going to leave it at that. And then they talked to J-Mo afterwards, and he was basically like, when I came in the league, I was immature. I didn't know what I wanted to do, what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, and didn't realize that I've got to be all in and all that. Like, he sounds like it sounds like someone got to him and is like, listen, this is go time. We don't have time for this. You growing up on the fly. I wonder if Coach Saban got to him and was like, dude.
Whoever, whatever, I don't care. If that dude can realize his potential,
it's that offense is going to be scary. Like, it's already really good. If he hits his potential, is it really hyperbole to say that it could be the best offense in football? No. A record-setting offense with all the weapons that team has, if they're healthy?
Yeah.
Like, it could be – we could be in for a lot of fun. I think we're going to be in for a lot of fun no matter what.
Yeah.
But he could be a type of player that sets the building on fire every time he touches the ball.
I mean, he already is. Like, the few, I mean, because it's not like he got a ton of touches, but, you know, I would say, you know, 3 out of 5 times he touched the ball, he made something electric happen with it. Like,
he's special.
He is.
Like, they just got to keep him healthy and get his head right. So yeah. I was so pumped to hear that. A bunch of dudes didn't practice. Branch, they confirmed Branch had a procedure in the offseason. They think he's going to be ready for training camp. But he should be good opening week.
Yeah. Well,
but we could be without.
That makes sense why they were at rookie camp. They were having Rakestraw work the slot.
Yeah. And you know, with as much depth as they've added in the secondary, like if he has to sit out a couple weeks until he's good to go, you know, it maybe not a bad thing. I would hate for him to end up on the PUP list and miss the first 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's gonna be good right around the start. So that's fine.
Good stuff. Yeah.
And yeah, that was it. I saw a couple clips of Montgomery looking shifty in the backfield and all that, but we're
just over 100 days.
I can't wait.
Can't come soon enough. Cannot come soon enough. Go ahead.
Nope. You're not going to get me with that one.
All right. Well, then let's get out of here. Thanks for everyone for watching. As I said, check me out on Late Night Grin on Friday night, where we'll be previewing King and Queen of the Ring. And I will be explaining why I was upset that Gunther won on Monday.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Not upset. That's the wrong word. But I was... by the time Monday rolled around, I had just convinced I was like, no.
You were ready for it.
I was like, Jay needs to win. Let's do this.
Yeah. It's going to be that guy's whole friggin' character arc.
I'm glad that they announced today that the winners are getting title shots.
I was going to, when you started this, I was like, man, he said we were wrapping it up, but like, I think this was a great idea because if you would have announced it at the beginning, I don't think as many people would have bought into Jay's going to win the whole thing because he just had a title shot.
Sure.
So like, I really like that they did that too.
Right. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm not as like, because I just was thinking about it and like, King of the Ring has worked best with, you know, there's obviously exceptions to every rule, but it's worked best when it's been part of a bigger story. Like Brett winning was in service of kicking off his feud with Lawler, and then the following year, Owen winning was in service of continuing his feud with Brett. Like, I think when you just throw it on a guy to throw it on a guy, like Mabel, or you know some of the newer like when they did it with Woods a couple years ago. It's like, it was nice. It wasn't, something he had always wanted, but it didn't really do anything for Woods.
Right.
So you either gotta use it as part of a bigger story, or use it like with Lesnar, and use it as a way to get a title shot for them down, at SummerSlam or whatever. So.
And it immediately gives you like, oh, that's going to be one of the matches. Like, that's going to be a big match. We can start building for SummerSlam and give it some real, oomph. Can you imagine Gunther if they go ahead? Sorry.
No, I was going to say, the beautiful thing is that I'm still now, because of this, I'm back to not being convinced Gunther is going to win.
Right, because Randy and Cody would be, the buildup of when's Randy going to turn? Yeah. When's Randy going to turn? When's the Viper going to come out?
Like, you get that would be, like 2 months of that, like.
Right.
That's good stuff.
Or you could, if Gunther ends up winning, Gunther and Cody is a match that a lot of people were hoping was going to happen.
Right.
But
Hunter did say it was for.
Oh, is it brand?
It's brand specific.
Okay, so if Gunther wins and then it's Gunther versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam, like, that's not terrible either. Assuming that Drew's going to win before.
To quote Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend.
No? Fair enough.
But we can talk about all that next week after we find out who wins and stuff like that and go from there. But yeah, just to give people a little taste of what I'll be coming with on Friday night with the lads. So.
Come on, you can't do two of them. All right, phrasing, sir, phrasing.
And if you want to do two times,
I was thinking, maybe I'll, I don't have a whole lot going on. I'll try to tune in, but if that's what you're doing with the lads, I got other movies for that.
All right, yeah. So yeah, check that out. Leave a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Next base cover comes out Monday, I think. So check that out as well. Check out last week's "Don't You Forget About Me" from the Breakfast Club soundtrack.
Just watched that movie like 2 weeks ago.
There you go. So, all right. Until next time, everyone. See ya.